As we grow older, we begin to realize that peace is not something given to us. It's something we must protect. In our younger years, we spent so much time trying to please people, to be understood, to explain ourselves. But as the years pass, we come to a quiet truth. Not every question deserves an answer, and not every problem deserves our energy. That's what being unbothered really means. It's not coldness or pride, it's wisdom. It's understanding that calm detachment is the highest form of self-respect. Because when you stop reacting to every little thing, when you stop explaining and just start living, you discover a kind of freedom you never had before. Many seniors I've met over the years, kind, generous, soft-hearted people, struggle with this idea. They think being unbothered means becoming distant, but it's not about shutting people out. It's about letting go of unnecessary emotional noise. You've already lived decades proving your worth to the world. Now is the time to prove something to yourself, that you deserve serenity. Today we're going to talk about something that affects everyone who steps into their golden years. The art of staying unbothered by intrusive questions. Because no matter how warm or polite people seem, some questions are not meant to be answered. Not because you're secretive, but because your peace is too precious to be wasted. Let's start with the first kind. Questions that invade your privacy. The first one is, how much money do you have? What's your pension? You'd be surprised how often this question appears in everyday conversation. Sometimes it's a relative at a family dinner, pretending to be curious. Sometimes it's a neighbor who just wants to compare lives. Other times it's someone fishing for opportunity. I once heard about an elderly man named Harold, a retired postal worker who'd saved wisely his whole life. One afternoon during a neighborhood barbecue, someone asked about his pension. Wanting to be friendly, Harold shared details of his finances, how he managed his retirement savings, the size of his monthly check. A few weeks later, that same friendly neighbor started offering him investment deals, convincing him to buy into a so-called senior housing project that promised big returns. It turned out to be a scam that cost Harold a large portion of his savings. That's why financial privacy is sacred. When someone asks, how much do you make? How big is your pension? You don't owe them a real answer. A calm, short response like, I get by just fine is enough. You're not being rude. You're being wise. Money attracts opinions, envy, and manipulation. And in old age, peace of mind is worth far more than any number in a bank account. The second one, how successful are your children? That question can cut deeper than people realize. Older parents often carry invisible pressure when it comes to their children's lives. Maybe your son didn't become the doctor people expected him to be. Maybe your daughter is still figuring things out. Or maybe your children are thriving, but talking about their success still feels uncomfortable because it creates distance or jealousy among others. A woman named Grace once told me that during a family reunion, a cousin kept asking about her son, comparing him to his own children who had fancy jobs and expensive cars. Grace smiled, but later admitted she felt embarrassed, not because of her son, but because she realized how toxic comparison can be. Her son was a good man, kind and hardworking, and that was all that mattered. When someone asks, how successful are your children? Remember, your worth isn't measured by your children's career titles. Every person walks their own path. The best response is one of quiet pride and peace. They're doing what makes them happy, because success is not about money or status. It's about living a meaningful life. The third one, are you still working, or do you just stay home? That just stay home part carries a sting, doesn't it? Society often equates busyness with purpose, as if resting means laziness. But retirement isn't a punishment. It's a well-earned season of renewal. For some, fulfillment means gardening, volunteering, or painting. For others, it means resting, watching birds, or having tea with a friend. You don't owe anyone an explanation for how you spend your time. I knew a retired teacher named Mrs. Nguyen who felt ashamed at first because she didn't volunteer like her friends did. She simply enjoyed staying home, tending to her plants, and reading books. One day, her friend teased her, saying she should get out more. She smiled and said, I've spent 40 years shaping minds. Now I'm shaping peace. That's the heart of being unbothered. You don't defend your choices. You live them quietly, with confidence. You know what brings you peace, and you don't let anyone make you feel guilty for living your life your way. These questions about money, about children, about how you spend your time, all share one thing in common. They test your boundaries. The unbothered response isn't anger or silence. It's calm detachment. You acknowledge the question without letting it disturb your peace. Now let's move to the next group. Questions that pull you into drama. The fourth one is, what do you think of your son's or daughter's partner? This one is dangerous because it often hides behind innocent curiosity. Maybe a friend asks about your child's new relationship, or a relative wonders if you approve. But answering such a question, especially honestly, can spark unnecessary conflict. Once words are spoken, they travel far, sometimes straight back to your children. There was a story of an older father, Mr. Collins, whose daughter was dating a man he didn't particularly like. A neighbor once asked what he thought of the young man. He replied that he wasn't sure the guy was good enough for his daughter. A week later, that very comment reached his daughter's ears, and their relationship became strained for years. He told me later that he learned his lesson. If someone asks about your child's partner, stay neutral. Say something simple like, I trust their judgment, or they seem happy together. That's all that's needed. You protect your child's autonomy and your own peace of mind. Next comes the fifth question. Did you hear what happened to your neighbor, friend, or church member? Gossip. It's the oldest form of entertainment and the most draining. It wears down your spirit in tiny ways. Many older adults fall into gossip circles without realizing how much it saps their emotional balance. There's a woman at my local senior center, kind-hearted, always smiling, but she once confided that after spending afternoons chatting with certain friends, she went home feeling anxious and sad. They talk about who's sick, whose children are failing, whose marriage is falling apart. None of it added joy to her day. She decided to stop participating. She still greeted people warmly, but when the gossip started, she quietly excused herself. Within weeks, she noticed her mood improve, her sleep deepen, and her mornings feel lighter. That's the power of being unbothered. When you choose not to react to gossip, you're not being unfriendly. You're being protective of your soul. Remember this, peace grows where silence lives. Then there's the sixth question. Can you help me with, usually followed by something physically or emotionally demanding? For many seniors, this is the hardest to decline. You've spent a lifetime helping others, raising children, caring for parents, volunteering, lending a hand. Saying no can feel wrong, but it's not selfishness. It's wisdom born from experience. I remember an elderly neighbor, Tom, who tried to help his friend move a couch one afternoon. He didn't want to disappoint anyone, but in the process, he strained his back so badly that he couldn't walk properly for weeks. He told me afterward that he finally understood. Helping others doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. When your body whispers that something is too much, listen. It's better to say, I'm not sure I can manage that safely, and suggest an alternative. Maybe recommend a moving service or ask younger volunteers to assist. That's not coldness, it's self-preservation. Because one moment of overexertion can cost you months of pain. Learning to say no is one of the most powerful forms of being unbothered. It doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you start caring smartly. You choose where to give your time, energy, and strength, and that choice keeps you healthy and available for the moments that truly matter. These three, gossip, interference, and overhelping, are emotional traps disguised as kindness. They make you feel useful, but often leave you drained. The truly wise senior learns that you don't need to join every conversation, fix every issue, or lift every burden. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself and others is to step back with grace. So far, we've talked about questions that invade your privacy and questions that pull you into unnecessary drama. Now let's move into another category that can quietly wear you down. Questions that steal your energy. As we age, our emotional energy becomes precious. It's like a battery that no longer charges overnight the way it used to. Every unnecessary conversation, every forced explanation, Every obligation we accept out of guilt drains that battery. So being unbothered means learning to say, my peace comes first. The seventh question that often drains older adults is, why don't you come out more, attend this event, or join that group? There's an invisible pressure on many retirees to stay active all the time, to go to every luncheon, reunion, or club meeting. And while staying social is healthy, it's not supposed to feel like a full-time job. Some seniors genuinely love large gatherings. Others prefer quiet evenings with a few dear friends or even peaceful solitude. Both are perfectly fine. Take Helen, for example, a retired nurse in her 70s. She used to join every neighborhood event because she didn't want to seem antisocial. But after a while, she realized she came home more tired than happy. The endless small talk and forced laughter began to feel like emotional labor. So she cut down her commitments, just attended 2 monthly meetings that truly interested her. One gardening club and one book group. Her energy came back. Her smile became genuine again. That's the beauty of maturity. You no longer need to prove that you belong everywhere. When someone asks, why don't you come out more? Just smile and say, I enjoy my peace at home. You don't owe anyone an explanation for how you choose to spend your time. True social health is not about quantity, it's about quality. Then comes the eighth question. Why don't you use social media more or reply faster? We live in a time where people think being constantly online equals being connected. But for older adults, that digital pressure can be exhausting. Messages, notifications, and endless group chats, they can easily rob your mental calm. I once met an older gentleman named Robert who joined Facebook to keep up with his children and grandkids. It started well until he was added to several online groups. Every morning, hundreds of messages flooded his phone. Jokes, rumors, debates, even arguments about politics. It got to the point where his mornings began with stress instead of peace. One day he decided to delete most of the apps and check messages just twice a week. He said it was the best decision he had made that year. He still talked to his family, but on his terms, not on the internet's schedule. Being unbothered in the digital age means choosing peace over constant interaction. Technology is a wonderful tool, but you should be the master, not the servant. You can enjoy its benefits without being consumed by it. It's perfectly fine to say, I'll check messages when I can. Those who truly care about you will understand. The ninth question that quietly steals your energy is, what do you think about that political or religious issue? This one may be the most draining of all, because such discussions rarely lead to understanding. They usually lead to arguments. Everyone wants to be right, and in today's world, opinions are loud while listening is rare. A retired pastor once told me that after years of community debates, he finally realized something profound. People don't actually want your opinion. They want confirmation of their own. So he stopped debating. Instead, when controversial topics came up, he simply said, I can see both sides, and moved on. That's emotional intelligence in action. You don't have to prove your wisdom by joining every argument. Silence doesn't mean you're uninformed. It means you're mature enough to value peace over victory. Remember, you can't calm the world, but you can calm your mind. The less you explain, the more peace you preserve. That's the secret of emotional mastery. Now, let's move to the final section. Living unbothered, the wisdom of calm detachment. Being unbothered isn't about shutting people out or pretending you don't care. It's what I call emotional minimalism, keeping only what nourishes your soul. When your house is cluttered, you clean it. When your heart is cluttered, you simplify it. You let go of the noise and hold on to what matters. This calm detachment brings real health benefits. Studies show that chronic stress can weaken immunity, raise blood pressure, and disturb sleep. On the other hand, emotional calm, the ability to stay unbothered, reduces inflammation and stabilizes the heart. You literally live longer by caring less about the wrong things. Try asking yourself each morning, does this conversation bring peace or pressure? If it brings pressure, step back. If it brings peace, lean in. That simple question can change your entire day. Maturity is when you stop reacting and start protecting your peace. When you no longer feel the need to explain every decision, justify every feeling, or attend every event. When you quietly choose peace, even when others call it distance. And yes, people may misunderstand you. Some may say you have become quiet, detached, even cold. Don't let that bother you. Those who love you will see the truth, that you're simply choosing a calmer way to live. I once met a woman named Maria at a community center. She told me that her friends complained she didn't pick up every call anymore. She smiled and said, "I'm not ignoring anyone. I'm just listening to my own thoughts for a change." That's what peace looks like. Stillness that feels full, not empty. Being unbothered also means accepting that not every relationship needs to be repaired, not every question needs an answer, and not every battle needs to be fought. Some things truly are better left in silence. As we enter our later years, we've already done the hard work, raising families, building careers, overcoming storms. Now it's time to tend the inner garden, to choose peace over performance, to say no without guilt, to protect your quiet mornings and your soft evenings. This doesn't mean becoming indifferent. It means caring deeply, but selectively. You still love your family, your friends, your community, but you love them from a place of calm, not chaos. Every time you bite your tongue instead of reacting, every time you pause before answering a question that feels intrusive, you're not being passive, you're being powerful. You're choosing inner balance over temporary satisfaction. You see, in old age, peace is not about having no problems. It's about not letting every problem touch your heart. It's the quiet strength to say, "I don't need to answer that. I don't need to prove anything. I just need to live well." Let's face it, we spent most of our lives trying to please others, bosses, children, neighbors, even strangers. But at this stage, you have earned the right to please yourself, to spend time the way you want, to say less and live more. So as you move forward, remember, being unbothered is not an act of withdrawal, it's an act of wisdom. It's the realization that peace is not found in control, but in release. Take time to enjoy the small, quiet joys, the sound of birds at dawn, the warmth of a pet on your lap, a cup of tea shared with someone who truly listens. Those are the moments that fill your soul. And when the world comes with its endless questions about your money, your children, your choices, your beliefs, smile gently. Let the question pass through you and keep your peace. Because peace, once protected, becomes power. In old age, you don't owe the world your explanations. You owe yourself your serenity. That's what it truly means to be unbothered.